Tuesday, November. Oh, are we on? I'm sorry.
Just, I pushed it.
Yeah, it'll be live. You press it on. Yeah. It's just lagging.
The Transportation Advisory Committee meeting of Tuesday, November 20th, 2018 is called to order. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. David, absent. Mr. Lyman?
Here.
Mr. Jessic?
Here.
Mr. LaSalle?
Here.
Mr. McElrath?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell is here, but
Finishing.
finishing another meeting. And Mr. Tong?
Here. Okay, item 2, approval of the minutes of October 16th, 2018. Does anybody have any changes or additions to those minutes they'd like to make? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? None. Citizen comments, I don't see any citizens out here for comments. Item 5, new business, discussion items, the TAC membership and upcoming interviews. And Kim, your name is on this.
So I passed out the 4 applicants to each one of you, so you have a copy of, it's a redacted version of their applications. And I think the idea is that we're going to be holding interviews at the next TAC meeting in December. And about, I don't know if we hold them before, after, during, I don't know what everybody's idea is for that.
Well, what we've done in the past, I don't remember the timing exactly, but we've all have a set of questions for the applicants so that all the applicants are asked the same questions. And then we just start one end or another, and each of the members will ask a question of each of the applicants. So,
Okay.
and we, if you don't have access to those questions, I'm sure Lisa will be able to.
Yeah,
Get
and
those
typically you do it before
Yeah.
the 6 o'clock start time of the regular meeting. Do you typically hold the interviews before your regular meeting?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We have started at like 5:30 with the interviews, and we have to start at 6 with them. So it's kind of iffy, depends on how long we think the process will take and what the agenda is for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah. But
Well,
yeah,
I think the other piece is just challenges to some of you getting here. I know some of you have a harder time getting here than others. So if we started something at 5:30, is that something, is that Mary, you,
I think I can make it.
okay, okay.
Good with me.
You're good? Okay, so I like the idea of starting at 5:30. We'll have some dinner here at 5 then, and we'll just start at that. We'll have the recorder here. They'll need, the idea is to get those recorded. Yeah, we'll definitely have the questions. It'd be nice if we could send the questions out again. See if we've been using the same set of questions for a while. I don't know if you want to make any adjustments to that or not, but we could do that. And then, yeah, hold those interviews. I think the other little piece was just kind of how we score those. Like, I'm trying to remember, did we not do like we didn't have a lot of discussion about it? We just had
Right.
voting, and then
Right.
we accumulated all that and put the candidates in.
rank them,
rank them
1,
in
2,
order.
and 3, or however many you have, you rank them. And you just rank them on a piece of paper rather than discussing them. And then last time you handed them over to me, I tallied them up and told you which ones in which order.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
I think we allowed, was it 10 minutes or 15 minutes per?
It was,
I think we scheduled them every 15 minutes, but they really don't take that
Yeah.
long.
They don't take that long.
And I should like to point out too, you're gonna need one more member than quorum,
Yeah, that's right, because
because I won't be able to
Right.
talk to myself.
correct, yeah.
and then that recommendation goes to the mayor for final
How many
determination.
positions are we filling?
3, I think.
3.
Interesting.
Yes, so that's the plan, unless, Mike, welcome to the club.
Sorry.
That's
Was
okay.
a
Yeah.
Urban renewal exec session.
Is it possible for you to be here at 5:30 next meeting, Mike? So we can start the interviews of the
And that date is,
It's the 18th of December.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Okay, item 5B, vehicle registration review.
Okay. So some of this, I'm feeling like some of this information has been floated to you already, but I'm sure it has, because we talked about developing a letter of recommendation.
Yeah.
I don't know if all the information that we provided was here. I think this colorful chart that shows the 3 different scenarios, I can't remember if we shared that. But really what we're just giving you an update on is the Board of County Commissioners is continuing to consider the idea of a vehicle registration fee. And really the scenario was, and what you have in your packet is just showing, really Clackamas County is the one county out of the 3 metro counties that doesn't have a vehicle registration fee, or what, they're saying they don't have any local funding option other than gas tax. So they're planning to make that determination, and as far as I know, the county commissioners will vote on that soon. I don't have a specific date, but they were asking for letters of recommendation from the city. So the city manager put one together on behalf of, and he received permission to do that from the city commission. And then, Kim, you put together a letter for the TAC as well.
Correct, yeah.
So if we can get some buy-off on that tonight, that we would forward that as well. And then the piece of information that I don't necessarily think I shared last time was this colored table that shows a countywide vehicle registration fee at $30 per month, or no, I'm sorry, not $30 per month, $30 per year per vehicle. And the 3 scenarios are if the way the legislature works on vehicle registration fees, cities get 40% and counties get 60% of that share. And then, so that's the green section. And then if you look to the far left, you can see all the different cities in the county and how much their allocation would be. So if you line up Oregon City, under that scenario, Oregon City would see $690,807. That's an estimated amount for the vehicle registration fee for $30 a vehicle per day, per year. And then the next scenario is same dollar amount, same result for Oregon City, but the county was proposing to take 10% of its instead of taking the full 60%, they would take 10% of the vehicle registration fee and plug that into what they're calling a countywide strategic investment fund. And the idea there would be to spend those on projects that generally receive a lot of support from the C4 committee, which is a Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, and they meet monthly as well, and give them an opportunity to have a little more say in how those dollars would be spent. And then the third scenario was taking a little bit of the cities and half of the cities and a bigger percentage of the counties, and put a bigger allocation in that county strategic investment fund. And what they talked about, there's not certainty on this, but what they talked about was that countywide strategic investment fund would be used for things, at least initially, in terms of road transfers. So in Oregon City, there's a lot of county roads inside the city limits. We have an agreement with the county whereby they're supposed to invest in those roads before they transfer them to the city. That's always been kind of a sticking point. They've always indicated that they haven't had money for that. So they were kind of planting the seed that that could be one way that this strategic investment fund could be used, at least, more early in the program. Obviously, a vehicle registration fee will live throughout it'll continue. It's not a short-term or a limited term program. It's long-term. So, eventually we'd get caught up with all those.
So it sounds like that fund would be pretty versatile for them.
It would be a lot more versatile for them.
Yeah.
And I think all the cities in the room opposed that last option, to be honest with you. They didn't like that option. They would rather have the option of spending those local dollars in the cities. And, but they did like the middle version, or the version in orange, which didn't really touch the city's 40%, but allocated 10% of the overall total to the strategic investment fund to help kind of work on those.
Well, I could see the cities coming to the county and making their point for spending some of that 10% within the city limits.
That's right, yep. Especially on those roads, like Abernathy's a good example of that. That's a county road inside the city jurisdiction.
And potentially I can see Lifesay Road being annexed sometime.
Right,
That's pretty sad,
yep.
pretty sad road.
So anyway, just an update. I don't know if you've read the letter, but I guess we would like if we could get some, I don't think we need a motion here, but is everybody okay with Bob signing the letter and us shipping it to the county?
I'll move that the committee recommend that our chairman sign the letter as drafted.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, that was easy.
We just voted against our own votes.
I mean, Washington County, I mean, they really have a successful program, and I mean, when you're driving out there, the roads are, I mean, pretty good shape, and I mean, look, they're collecting almost $49 million a year.
It's pretty impressive. Okay. Item 5C, Transportation System Plan Project Accomplishments. And after I looked at that list, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so there's two lists. There's one that's all-inclusive that's in your packet here. That's the list out of our transportation system plan. And it has just kind of all the projects. I forget the number that we have, but there's several $1 million worth of projects in there. And $373 million worth of projects, I think is the grand total. Some of that would be funded through system development charges, which occur when a new developer builds something in Oregon City, they pay a system development charge. So that's that. The one that's in your packet is that. But what Bob had asked for, and at first I cringed about having to do this because I was thinking that's a bunch of work, and really it was. But Dana Webb did most of it, so that was a good thing. But we looked her and I both looked at the list, and through our combined recollect, kind of put this memorandum together that includes projects that have been either completed or partially completed or in the hopper to be completed, near-term hopper to be completed. So just trying to give you some information about those projects. There is surprisingly a lot of projects that have been done. And we want to dig deeper into that, I think, after going through this exercise, and both create a graphical representation of that so you actually see this bigger list has a set of maps that go along with it as well. And it shows all these projects. So it'd be nice to have, a mapped version of this one as well.
Yeah.
And not have to go through that every year, but think of it as a 5-year update. Also go through the old list, kind of strike those that we've done. I think that would be helpful for us. And then maybe sitting down again with the DKS and Associates helped us with our TSP, just kind of make sure we're thinking the same thing with regard to accomplishment. And that'll help drive future capital projects for us as well, to make sure we kind of focus where we need to. But yeah, so that's just an informational piece. Other than that, I wasn't planning to go through it too much, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Would you be able to put together like two pie charts, one that shows like the whole list and completed by just each project is one and gets one share, and just how much is completed, how much is in progress, and how much is underway, and then have another one that shows it by dollar. Okay, so you gives you two different ways of seeing where we're at, by project number or by amount of money. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, to actually look to see whether the, I mean, we could have completed half the projects, but if they're all the least expensive ones, then it's not a good reflection of overall. So try to reflect that.
Well, also, there are some projects that are tied in with other projects, so it'd be kind of hard to figure the
Yeah, there's a little.
fiscal impact of it.
There's a little bit of that too, that we noticed under Denham. There's projects that maybe we've completed, maybe a developer has completed a couple thousand feet of sidewalk, but the overall reliability is 10,000 feet of sidewalk or something like that. So
Yeah, then you'd
we'll
have
have to, we'll keep working on that. But I get what you're trying to get to, which is a better representation of really the value and how much, value. We may have a, $373 million project load. And while there's a lot of projects on this list, we may have only completed maybe,
$5 million.
$5 million worth of projects, right?
But you say, but if there's 300 projects, well, we've done 150.
Right.
I think this exercise alone helps you guys
It really does. It was,
understand where you are and
Yeah.
how far have you traveled and how much road there is in front of you.
Plus, it's a start on the update of the next transportation systems plan.
there you go. Yeah, so all good things. But it's a work in progress, so we'll keep bringing that back in various forms. That's where we're at right now.
Okay, quick question, Mr. Chairman. So were there any particular disappointments or positive surprises as you were building this list?
I don't remember feeling disappointed. For one, I didn't look at the list until Dana had most of it crafted. So it was a multi-page document anyway, so it's surprising how these things sneak up on you as having been completed. So just seeing a multi-page document made me feel like, oh, wow, we actually have completed a bunch of stuff here. So I don't remember feeling that. I do remember thinking as I was looking through the project list that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in there that I think would make a big difference to the community that we could prioritize. And, school zone flashers, they're a biggie, curve ahead signs, those kind of things. Those, the pedestrian activated ped crossing signals, and just kind of talking through that, Dana and I were like, man, we could probably identify one big project that installed many of those and program that into our ability to get, we need somebody to deliver those projects, or at least work with the consultant to deliver those. But yeah, it seemed like those were things that I saw that were relatively easy to fund, especially with the new gas tax that's coming in and possibility of vehicle registration fees. I mean, if you look at this project list that's included in your packet, there's the total estimated project cost, there's the non-growth share, and then there's the growth share. So some of these projects, we might not have, adequate funding to complete today, right? So it's really just kind of paying attention to that and trying to figure out how we can put together a project. But I mean, having a lot of the unfunded piece, or the piece that's not funded through SDCs, has been a hard thing for us to deliver because we really haven't had enough gas taxes to take that on. And we're really kind of constrained with pavement dollars to pay for pavement instead of school zone flashers or, pedestrian
also
activated crossing buttons.
also suggest that you think about ways to publicize the progress in a meaningful way, whether, say, you and some staff people are being interviewed and it's on cable TV, or whether it's a summary report that really jumps out and you give it to city council or the planning commission, just get the word out, because this kind of stuff, the accomplishments often get lost.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, John. I think that's a great comment because one of the things we went with at our morning staff meeting this morning was the community survey that the city just did. I don't know if any of you actually participated in that, but they presented that to us at the city commission a couple of weeks ago. And the community feels like road maintenance is their top priority for the city, right? And surprisingly, as good as our roads look from a pavement condition, there was a fair amount of feeling that, we should be doing more with road maintenance. And so, Jason and his group, I could tell them getting all cross about that, thinking, man, we do a boatload of that kind of work out there. But the reality of it is I don't think we do a great job telling people about that. So you're right. I think telling people about this kind of thing is going to become a new priority for us as well.
I think your GIS group should be able to take this information and create a layer out there and put it out to the website. So you go out there and click and you'll see maybe one color is going to be projects completed and the other color projects that are on transportation master plan. So you kind of can see visually, and maybe, you could click individual. They should be able to click, it will say, okay, Washington Street speed warning system. Something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Those are all great ideas.
Total city street miles, number of street miles, fixed or whatever, okay? Things like that, it gives something to immediately have a comparison.
Yeah. I think we do a pretty good job with the stuff that the street crew does and that we do with our pavement maintenance fees, right? And that's because when we adopted the pavement maintenance fee, they required us to do an annual report. And I remember hating that too. I remember going, why do we have to do anything? We have to answer to these people for all these crazy things that they want us to do. But the reality of it is that's been a godsend because we now pay attention to what we've accomplished and we track it from 2008 on. We've been tracking that. And you can as a citizen go online and actually click on that and you can look at it year by year or you can look at the total quantity. So doing the same thing with the TSP would be a great idea.
One of the things you may want to look at too is consumer education. What does a good pavement look like? Because it may be that expectations are that everything in the world will be brand new yesterday. Mm-hmm. And a good pavement is not the same as a fresh pavement. And so it may be that you're dealing with some of those kind of expectations.
Well, I think the people probably know what good road is. It doesn't have to be brand new, but you're driving there 2-3 years old road, you could see the difference versus the one that's been paid 20 years ago.
You and I know.
Or maybe.
It's sort of like saying, would you know a good piece of tile work if you saw it, if you weren't a tile expert? You shouldn't expect the people in the community to be pavement experts, is I think where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, but a little education goes a long ways in understanding that. So yeah, all good points. We'll work on it. We'll get it done next week.
Well, no, I think if you're linking, somehow people could see also, maybe put in the numbers so they understand that this is how much your dollars had covered this year. Mm-hmm. And then, maybe at some point people will say, hey, maybe we should increase or get, city gas tax or something to fund more of this stuff. I mean, like he's right, people don't understand. They don't even have a perspective how much a mile of road costs. They don't.
Right?
No, no way.
So, like you get your tax bill and go, what the heck is this? And, they don't understand, how expensive things are. So I don't know if you can link all this together somehow, I think. Will help you in a long way, I think.
Telling your story, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, and we can definitely do a better job with that.
The other thing that was in that survey, something to keep in mind, is 70 whatever % of people said they'd prefer to get their information from the trail news. So we can't just put it online and think people are going to find it. We need to talk ourselves up in the trail news too.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I do. I don't go to the website. I just read that little thing.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's, we talked about that this morning too, which is trying to write articles, meaningful articles that people want to read and care to read, and yeah. And we're doing a lot. The second option was social media, right? People like to get their news through social media, and I think we're seeing more and more with Kristen Brown as our public, and Lisa's been helping while she's on maternity leave, but trying to get, short blurbs about important things out via social media, so. And I know you guys all use Twitter and LinkedIn. And
Right.
Anyway, anything else on that one before we move on?
I'd like to just step in here for a minute. Sir, we've already passed the citizen comments. Did you want to make any comments to the committee?
No, I'm good.
Oh,
I'm just listening,
okay.
taking it all in. Thank you.
The
Yeah,
next item
actually,
is-
I need to introduce both Jason and Wes works for us. Wes is in the street department as well. So
Oh.
Wes Wilson is on our street crew.
Oh, okay.
And Jason is our new street supervisor. So it's transportation. I got to remember this now.
Transportation maintenance manager.
Transportation maintenance manager. So
changed.
I think operations is in there somewhere.
Somewhere in there, operations.
So anyway, Jason was planning to come here and speak, but Wes is stepping in, I think. Is that right, Wes? No?
I'm good listening.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, item
It's all fun here.
5D, winter weather response plan. And anybody out there can present this to us, whoever it may be.
It seemed time sensitive, and again, just thinking about, we're going to talk about schedule too, to think about things that this committee should be thinking about throughout the year. But so you'll see, we've asked Jason to come a little more often than what he has. I don't think you've been to, have you been to one
No,
of
this is
these?
my first one.
So it'd be good, I think, for you folks to hear some of the operational initiatives that go on, again, that you may not pay attention to or know too much about unless it's not quite right. And so, yeah, we thought, so that's why, given it's November, and although it was was it 50 degrees? It was pretty warm today. It's unseasonably warm, but we're going to be there pretty soon, right? So you might need to know some of this. So go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, John asked me to give a little talk on how we go about our winter weather response. So I just kind of made little bullet points here. So what is the winter weather response plan for the city of Oregon City? So we don't have a bare pavement policy at the city because we don't use steel bits on our plows. We use rubber bits. So the only time we can get down to bare pavement is when it's slushy. When it's cold and it's sticking, we're not going to get to bare pavement. And that's because the steel plows are just too hard on the infrastructure, the manhole lids and the valves and the other stuff that's going on there. So there's pretty much 4 elements involved in our winter weather plan. There's the de-icing, the mag chloride. There's plowing, sanding, and then just closing certain roads. So the de-icing procedure is the same as the plow maps that you're looking at. Those are the same roads that we would de-ice first. it says, winter weather response map, plowing and de-icing priorities. So they're the same priority for plowing or de-icing. With the one change is, the closed roads, we de-ice and not, close until the snow gets there. And then we do it two ways. We either do it proactively or reactively for de-ice. Proactively, we go out if the temperature is predicted to go freezing, we'll go out and de-ice unless it's raining. If it's raining, then we have to wait till the rain stops. And then we pretty much go reactively, and the police sergeants and the captains have my phone number, and they have another member of my crew, Gabe Camacho, and they'll call us once they get to that freezing point. It doesn't do any good for us to just sit in the wasting time till 3 o'clock in the morning when it starts to freeze. So that's kind of how we do it when it's raining. If it's not raining and it's predicted to get cold, we'll go out and put it down during work hours, put the mag chloride down.
The key there is if it's likely to rain, we won't place de-icer because it just washes down the drain. So if the event is one of those that starts in rain and slowly moves to snow, that's where our de-icer program doesn't do much for us, right? So, yeah, the temperature as it ramps up is, it's nice when it's dry and it's cold and then it snows, right? Then you can count on that de-icer to really be effective.
Yeah, a lot of our events come in just like John's saying though. It's raining, now it's snowing. So there's really no availability to put de-ice down. De-ice is more for the frost where it's been 28 degrees and you might get a hard frost in the corners or something and on the hills. That's where the de-ice really helps out. Not so much at the beginning of the snow events. It's just going to get covered with the snow and then diluted down to a point where it's no longer effective anyways.
Does that de-icer do any good when it's already iced?
Yes, it will. As long as the ice is not too thick. If you're trying to melt ice that's been like snow that's been packed down, it won't, you have to put so much down that it's not even feasible.
Does it make it worse? You get water on top of the ice that hasn't,
You do that too.
thawed?
Yep.
So I have a question. I see Seattle does this, and I think when we had that last set of, bad snow, that they brought salt. Have you guys looked into that?
We haven't looked into salt for a couple of reasons. One, we can't store it. We don't have the storage facility for salt. You have to keep it dry all year long and all winter long. So we would have to build a facility just to house our salt. We don't have that capability right now. And we use sand. So I think until ODOT can really prove definitively that salt is a lot better than sand. And another problem that ODOT doesn't have to worry about with salt is their sidewalks. When you salt, you explode your sidewalks. So you put down a new sidewalk and you put salt on it, you can wreck your sidewalks with salt. You'll see that. And it irritates me when I see a business owner that goes out and puts salt on a brand new sidewalk in front of their business, and you can tell which business and homeowners have done it. At the end of the year, you'll go by and there'll be gaps where the top is in the aggregate, even some of the aggregate pops out, and that's from salt.
I don't know, I was born and live in Sarajevo, Bosnia, and we used salt all the time, otherwise you wouldn't be able to move around. I mean, it was snow all the time.
And I know they use it in the Midwest, and I think they're prepared to use it in the Midwest, where we're not prepared to use it right now.
Well, in the Midwest, their cars only last about 10 years too. They rust out from the salt.
I do think it is a balance between, deterioration of other things, streetlights, cars, sidewalks,
Lawns.
equipment distribution equipment, I mean, we're, well, I don't know, are you gonna talk about equipment at all?
Yeah, just a little bit. I'll just touch on
Okay.
what we have, but
But I mean, all those things kind of lend themselves to that. I think ODOT's in a better position to kind of take that on and figure out if that's a new method. One of the other things is where we get our de-icer from is usually through an ODOT supply. We've got a few hundred gallons of it and we store that. But if they were to completely convert to salt, I'm not quite sure how that would work for us, but.
I do, lately I've been buying the mag chloride through a company out of Wyoming on the Oregon,
Okay.
on the state contract, because ODOT doesn't want to deal with us anymore. They don't want to have to deal with the small guys distributing to the small people. They don't want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
So I think these winter weather response maps came into play 4 or 5 years ago. And so I'm wondering if you updated them and they're reflective of what works well for you now.
Yeah, we did, after the last snow event, we did update them. We put Claremont, wasn't even on the list. That's a priority 2 road now. And then, my map's really small, but it's up on the Holcomb, you got that little neighborhood down in there. That wasn't on the list, but that's now a priority 1 neighborhood. I think it's,
That's Bob's neighborhood.
Yeah,
Well, that's why they go out there.
I put my driveway in there.
Bob said, do it or else.
the little kids don't like us plowing that neighborhood though.
Yeah.
They told us that's where they wanted to sled. The Oak Tree Terrace Road down in there. But yeah, no, we did, every year, we kind of look at what worked, what didn't work, kind of talk to the police on where they're seeing a lot of accidents, where vehicles are getting stuck, and then update the maps.
Can you briefly touch on how much snow event it takes in order to get you guys activated? Because we don't normally get much around here.
Takes about an inch or 2. And depending on what the weather forecast is from there. We get an inch or 2, it starts to come down, you get that inch. If it's just gonna be that, then we'll deploy our smaller trucks with our smaller plows just to get it off the road. If it's gonna be a prolonged event, then we'll deploy the 10-yard and 8-yard trucks with the bigger plows, and then also the smaller trucks. Just kind of depends on what the event's gonna be.
Now, those plows, you put them on the trucks, but for the rest of the year, are those trucks used for other purposes?
Yes. The 2 trucks that we plow with haul asphalt all summer long.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, you just take them off, I mean, once you know the forecast is coming, they set them up, and then I think once the event is over, they take them off.
This time of year, we have one of our trucks, our biggest truck is totally chained up with the sander in the back of it and the plow on the front of it, and just sitting and waiting because we can't pave. We don't have any other really need for it right now. So, and we have other trucks within the city, other 10-yard trucks, where if we had a mudslide or we had a big event that we could borrow from the other departments. So we have one, our biggest truck is chained up, ready to go.
Are there any county roads or streets that you plow or treat?
The only
within
one.
City limits?
We do plow South End, and that's mainly just because I tell the guys, when you're going somewhere, go with your plow down. So if you're going, and we close on a big snow event, we close Center Street. So to get to the neighborhoods up on the South End side of town, you're pretty much going up South End. So if it's snowing and you're going up there, you might as well go with your plow down.
Has there ever been any thought, I know that the county does our striping, street striping for us. Has there anybody ever thought about maybe trading some time, since we plow sometimes, which is their responsibility, trade that for some striping?
Well, we always think about those kind of things. We always try to figure out how to, get a little something out of the county. But I think, it's clear during those times, especially since they, you know, go high at much higher elevations in the county, that their hands are pretty, they're pretty busy at that time of year. So, no, I don't think we've actually reached out to them to say, hey, scratch your back and we'll scratch yours. Yeah, I just think it's part of the deal. I mean, we get that kind of thing from the county anyway. If we need equipment or signs, they're pretty helpful with us, so.
So you have 4 weather response routes. Can you knock out all 4 of them in one day?
Yeah. Well, it depends on, I would say yes, we can, but it depends on how heavy it's snowing.
Okay.
If it's snowing, just coming down hard, sometimes the only thing you can do is just tandem plow and just plow the red roads. You might never get off.
Yeah.
You might never get to the yellow and the green. You might just be on priority 1 roads just to keep, you know, Malala Avenue and Washington and Holcomb and just to keep traffic able to move on those roads.
Thank you.
Anything else?
We pretty much covered the plowing procedures. Well, the equipment that we do have is we have a 10-yard dump truck with a plow and sander that's all chained up. We have an 8-yard dump truck with a plow and a fairly antiquated sander that I don't even really like to use. And we have an F-450 dump truck with a plow and a sander in it. Another F-450 dump truck with a plow, no sander for that one. And we de-ice with just a regular pickup truck with a 150-gallon tank of de-ice. And 150 gallons will get about all of the red roads. That's about what you can do with 150 gallons. And to give you an idea what that costs, we're paying about 80 cents a gallon for de-ice right now.
That's a much longer period or much better coverage than I ever dreamed it would be. Get all the red in one truckload, that's.
So you have 300 gallons on hand?
We've got more than that.
Oh, that's what I thought I heard you say.
Right now we have, our capacity is about 7,000 gallons.
Okay.
So on a typical winter, how many gallons do you lay down?
When we're de-icing,
Yeah, I mean, you're de-icing for those heavy frost events and then maybe when you get that snow event, but on average, do you go through 7,000 gallons a year or?
it just depends on the year. Last year, we might have went through 1,000 gallons. I believe 2 or 3 years ago, we went through probably 6,000 gallons.
Okay.
It kind of depends on the year and and people ask me a lot of times, is it going to be a bad year? Well, a bad winter year is based off of a 3-day snow event. You know, if we have a 4-day event that drops 2 feet of snow in Portland, it's a terrible winter year. But overall, maybe it was actually not a bad year. It was just those 4 days and everybody remembers that and it was a bad year. So, kind of.
On the salt thing, I get it that there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't make sense, but it's just kind of interesting today, as a matter of fact, on OPB, driving home, and there was a report that ODOT is going to use salt on I-5 from the California border 100 miles north, and on 84 from the Idaho border 200 miles west, because they have found over the last 5 years or whatever that accident rates go way down with salt compared to what they were doing before, so. Interesting, we're coming back around to what we used to use.
Of course, that's Siskiyou Summit and
Right.
Glad Canyon area.
Right.
Which is the 2 worst spots in
Yeah.
the state.
Right.
Okay, well, now you know all you need to know about our snow and ice response, right?
Maybe more than I need to know.
Maybe.
Well, thank you, that was very interesting. Item 5E, the Public Works Report.
I'm gonna go through this pretty quick. There's 2018 project updates. I've just wrote down a few projects that I wanted to touch on. First of all, Malala Avenue between Beaver Creek and 213. We had, last week we had the design team kickoff meeting, and this week they're already out there doing geotechnical work. So if you're on Malala Avenue today, you probably saw some sign of that. It was pretty early this morning. I don't know if it went through the whole day or not. I don't know if you guys noticed them out there or not, but they were working early to avoid the heavy traffic. But they've been drilling holes in Malala Avenue just to get the geotechnical work they need for the signal foundations, for the pavement analysis, those kind of things. So
I thought that wasn't supposed to start until 2019.
well, the design work's starting now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I saw surveyors out there doing.
Surveyors have been out there, utility locates are gonna be out there, so we're on a pretty fast track. The idea would be, let me think about that. What we heard from Dana today was, I think bidding about this time next year.
Would that explain the red paint markings that's out there on Malala, like around Fred Meyer?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
The locating marks?
Haven't seen them, but yeah.
It's probably taggers.
John,
Yes, sir.
so when the design team gets the preliminary design, you're gonna have any opportunity for public input, or what's the plan there?
We are. I mean, it's a interesting kind of an audience there because the overall community is obviously interested. There's probably that smaller, more like a neighborhood community that's interested. And then you've got the business community
Yeah.
that's interested, you know, so trying to figure out how to hit all those groups with the appropriate messaging is something we're actually, one of the big topics of the kickoff meeting was the public involvement and information plan and drafting that up and trying to figure out how to hit those
So
audiences
you're
at the
working
right
with the
time.
chamber on the business community? Do they have, you work with the chamber on the business community?
Yes,
They have
yes.
some morning sessions, they get quite a few turnout, so if you were the program for that, it might be a good opportunity there.
Yeah. I think for businesses, we're going to be pretty targeted on that corridor,
Yeah.
right? Because some of them will have driveways affected. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do, so neighborhood impacts, but yeah. Vance, that's probably something for you to share with them, that we're working in that direction and want to, we want to hit that right because
Not to mention the bus route
TriMet's out there, yeah.
and the post office.
Yeah.
Could you refresh our memories what the length of Malala that entails?
Oh, boy.
It's from Beaver Creek, right?
Yeah, it's from Beaver Creek to 213 or close to 213. I want to say 40, I don't remember. 4,000 feet, I don't quite remember.
But basically from Beaver Creek to 213.
Yeah.
And when would you anticipate the public input portion?
Well, we were talking about that. We were talking March is probably a target time. I mean, part of the problem is we want to have something to show them.
Sure.
Right? So we've been talking about strip maps. It's one long corridor, so having a nice long strip map of that would be helpful. And understanding with a little more certainty which properties we actually need right away from. Knowing a little bit more about the impacts based on one of the big adds to that project is we are adding a 24-inch water line that's going to go most of the length of the project, and that wasn't originally part of the plan. We just came to the realization that we really needed more capacity in our water system, and so we're adding that element, which is going to take. It makes our schedule look pretty tight.
Is there an end date for the money supply?
Well, yes, I'm sure there is. So 2019, 20, and 21 was the grant period. They let us go early. If we had to go late, would they let us go late? Probably, but we're doing our best to get it done early.
I'm sure you could get probably an extension if you needed to.
Yeah, yeah. But we don't,
Especially
heck,
if
it's only
we're-
2018, we weren't supposed to get the money until 2019, so we're ahead of the game, right? The other one, Myers Road, not much change there, still kind of waiting on property acquisition on that one, but that's kind of in the works. Washington Street, the 12th, the signal at 12th, all that work is done basically, but there's more to that doesn't necessarily, isn't something that you'll necessarily notice in the form of backhoes and construction, but we've been doing traffic turn movement counts at those locations through the signals, and so we're pulling all that information. The end game is to have signals between 17th or Abernathy and really this new signal at 12th, have all those coordinated, right? So there's a little more efficiency along there. And in order to get that, they wanted to get some, just let the signals kind of do their thing and figure out where all those turning movements were so that they could get the phasing plan right for those signals. So that's coming along pretty soon.
Would that get coordinated up with 7th Street?
We don't have signal interconnect between there and 7th Street. So we've got it all the way down the hill, but not at 7th.
Gee, couldn't we put it up the hill?
Well, it's only money.
I know.
So right now, we don't have a plan for that, Henry, and then we are in the process, we've hired a consultant. I don't know if you guys realize this, but one of the city commission's goals is a quiet zone in the downtown area. So we have kind of been working through Union Pacific and ODOT Rail, hadn't been making a lot of progress there, so we've hired a consultant who does a lot of work with those two agencies, or through ODOT Rail and through Union Pacific. And so the quiet zone in Oregon City affects the intersection of 10th and Railroad and the intersection of 11th and Railroad. Most of you probably don't, all of you know the intersection of 10th and Railroad, but 11th is basically a dead-end road that has, you can drive up to on either side of the tracks and you can walk across, but you can't drive through. And so, quiet zones are about allowing a train to go through town without blazing its horns. And in order for the Union Pacific and really Federal Rail and even ODOT Rail to give us authorization to do that, we've got to really improve those locations, those crossing locations. So they're both pretty physically constrained by, well, especially 10th and Main. There's not a lot of options there for what we could do kind of geometrically, but there are some things that we could do there. And so we're looking at that. We've hired this consultant and we're seeking out a surveyor to do some of the survey work. And then the idea would be to come up with a plan, figure out how much that was going to cost, and then find out if that still remains a goal for the city commission, because it may be fairly expensive. So that's underway. Jason's wanting to move forward on the preventative maintenance list for 2019. So that's kind of things like slurry seals and chip seals. The 2018 pavement maintenance project, Jason inherited that one from Matt when he left, and it's pretty much wrapped up. We've got some punch list work to do, some of the things that you guys talked about while we were having dinner back there with signs and striping and those kind of things. We're also struggling a little bit with South Second. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but we changed the road grade of South Second between Center and High Street, and we took out kind of a abrupt hump in that road, and so it's much better now for vehicles, but we've got some transition problems on the side, so we're looking at some redesigns for some of the private property owners on that block of South Second Street. So
Yeah, I think I've seen people out working on it.
yeah, it's been kind of a challenge right there, but we'll get her. And then we're also moving forward with our 5-year pavement maintenance plan update. So we've got about a year left in that, but we wanted to get it updated. So we're going to do that a little early. So that's something that's out there. Other than that, unless you have questions about projects, there's a lot going on, but transportation's kind of winding down for this year. National Night Out, that's the next item. So I know a few of you met to talk about National Night Out. And Bob reported to us some of the conversation about that and some of the ideas that you guys had, all of which sounded good. I think there's a couple things. One was just kind of how do we work with the CIC, I think, in talking to Laura. Right, what we've been doing at the National Night Out is kind of sharing a booth with CIC. And this year it was lightly attended by the CIC, so it kind of was a question about whether or not we should continue to partner with them. And so that's still a question out there, but they do have a intent to do more, they'd like to do more community engagement as well. So I don't know if we should give up on them yet, but I think the one piece that might really kind of change all of our plans is what the police department is really going to do next year with their National Night Out. It sounds like they're wanting to change that, both because I think it's going in a different direction for them and because they're hoping to be working on that site with their new build, right? So I think there's still opportunity for coming up with a plan that's more public outreach, and I'd like to keep talking about that, but I just don't know about National Night Out right now and whether or not that makes sense for us to continue to pursue. And if so, we need a venue for doing it, sounds like, because police department are probably gonna do something different. And I don't think they've formally made that decision.
Well, Ed was going to give a presentation on the possibilities of the night out. Do you have any?
Well, when we met last, we were, there's not much change in what we had, the concept of what we had, what the details might change. But we were very concerned about getting the venue and being able to partner with some, because we couldn't support doing something of our own. So that's really where we're at, is waiting to see how we can partner, and then we can put together the presentation, which will need some help from data-wise from Public Works.
Yeah. I really think if we did something and the police were gonna do the same thing, focusing something on pedestrian safety, there's a lot of kids there. The school district they are moving forward with their Safe Routes to School program for Gardner Middle School. So I think, and it's, finding the right handouts and programs for, it's definitely, the way it's done right now, pretty child-centric. So if we could have maybe some pedestrian activated button kind of a thing where, in order to cross from one side of the area to the other, you actually require them to hit a ped button or something like that. I don't know, we could work on that. But at this point, it's a little early.
Well, I think that our ideas of getting information to the individual or in relation to the individual neighborhoods is valid. Everybody that I've kind of bounced it off of said, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. You're getting information to people that they would be interested in regard to their own neighborhoods. But I think what you just told us now is that we're in kind of limbo as far as what the police department is going to come up with. So I personally don't think we need to do any further.
Not till, I think until we see what their vision is and how then we can fit in with their vision of National Night Out.
Yeah, so we'll dig into that and get back to you.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll bring it up next month.
Okay.
Just keep reminding you.
The next item is the I-205 update, and I don't have much of an update, to be honest with you. I know ODOT is continuing with, they found, a small pot of like $17 million or something like that to continue with the design work, so that's they're moving forward.
$17 million.
Yeah, that'll probably help complete the design work.
Does that get them a week worth of design?
It must be expensive.
I did talk to Phil Lewis, who told me that he met with them actually today to talk about some of the appraisal information on the, because they're proposing to access the park on either side of the bridge. So there's a value associated with that. So they're talking about how to get to the appraised value and what the programming is of that property and how their impact will impact the city financially. So that's good news, I think.
Which park? Oh, just down beneath the bridge?
Yeah, it's both sides of the bridge, John Storm Park on one side and then Sportcraft and the boat ramp on the other side. So those are both park properties. I
Making money.
don't have much more on I-205. Haven't been keeping too close touch on that one. Good news on alternate mobilities for Beaver Creek and Highway 213. The Oregon Transportation Commission approved that last week. So, all the public involvement process that went through on getting that deviation from the state standard was submitted to them, and they've approved it. And it means now that
More congestion is okay?
a little more congestion is going to be okay. We've already included the projects that came out of that recommendation in the TSP and in the regional transportation plan. So I don't know when we're going to build those projects, but I think the hurdle was getting over the alternate mobility standard and getting that adopted so that, the planning department can go through with zoning of that area. And if a new development were to come in, they would be allowed to proceed. And last but not least, in your agenda packet is the 2019 preview of a variety of topics. And really, Vance, some of this is from our conversation a little bit. I was just trying to figure out how to, I know we do some goals, which we haven't really met and talked about goals yet for this committee for 2019, but trying to put good information in front of you and plan for that a little better is kind of what I think I've heard from some of you. Vance and I talked about it most recently. And so just trying to think about a 2019 agenda is kind of was our approach to how to get there. And bringing in a lot more topics from the street department, I think, is important, because again, it seems like getting that message out is something that we have been missing. So there's a lot of Jason in here. We're going to hear a lot from Jason. So, and maybe, should we put Wes Wilson's name
Get a
down?
couple of Wes in there.
All right, we'll put a couple of Wes in there too. And so anyway, there's more, I mean, we, obviously our agendas sometimes come together kind of late. It'd be, nice to get on top of that a little bit more, but there's just not enough hours in the day to be, I find it hard sometimes to get together with, whether it be Lisa or Kim, and figure out what exactly we should be bringing to you, and is it timely information, or have you already heard it, or do we have enough to really kind of give you an informed update? But this should help.
Something you might add is the nomination and elections of the new chair for the TAC. And that will be either January or February, depending on when the mayor makes his announcements of who he's going to assign to the TAC. As our latest TAC bylaws change, you remember that we decided to have the nomination and elections of the new chair, the meeting immediately following the mayor's assignments.
Okay.
It sounds like the mayor announces the appointments at the first city commission meeting of 2019, so,
Depending on weather.
yeah.
The last couple of years, our meetings have been messed up.
Well, we just heard about the great, response plan when it snows, so I'm not worried about that.
No problem.
Yeah, but every once in a while, the power goes out on Tuesday nights.
we will do a great job getting the roads ready. Whether you guys really want to get out and fare that weather or not is a whole nother story.
Oh, hey, I can walk down here. It's only about 5 blocks.
As a result of about 10 years ago, I'm a little bit leery of ice from now on. Okay, does anybody have any future agenda items that they would like to add to that list?
I just noticed there's one more item in here.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, Oregon Passenger Rail Draft Environmental Impact Statement.
And it's been a while since I talked about this. It's actually been a while since I've heard much about this, but this Oregon Passenger Rail, I've been on a committee from a couple years ago, actually, where it's a statewide committee. I think Governor Kitzhaber was pushing for this pretty heavily when he was in office. And so they did a bunch of work, and then they said, well, we really need to do this environmental work to get, to inform these concepts that we've come up with for rail, high-speed rail between Eugene, not just, well, it's Portland and beyond, to be honest with you. It goes, I think, the intent is to go beyond Portland up into BC, British Columbia. But, so anyway, they've been completed the draft environmental impact. I didn't look through this too much other than to note that there's an Oregon City open house on November 29th from 4:30 to 6:30 at the Pioneer Community Center. So I do think that that would be a good meeting for TAC members to attend. I'm going to try and get there. And I
When they
guess
say high speed, what is the speed?
Amtrak speed?
I think because of the rail that they're putting it on, they really, I think the fastest they could go would be 79 miles an hour.
70?
79, you know, I just, that'd take a lot of infrastructure upgrades to do that, at least through Oregon City. So I would hate the rumor to be that trains are gonna be coming through Oregon City at 79 miles an hour. But they might go between Eugene and Salem. There might be a good stretch of new track there where they could go pretty fast.
The last I heard was is that they would try to get to Oregon City, but they're going to have to slow down
Yeah.
at Oregon City and through the Portland metro area until they get north of Vancouver, and then they can
Speed up again.
pick it up again. But they've got several obstacles, 10th Street being the one that Oregon City's concerned about, and also a 100-year-old bridge across the Columbia River.
Maybe they should give a Tesla a call.
Yeah, I mean, that number is being recorded, but hopefully nobody's watching that, because, yeah, I don't know the speed, but I know in Oregon City, supposedly our rail system is rated at 79 miles an hour, but I don't think we've ever seen a train going that fast.
That's just the federal max for
That's the
trains.
federal max, yeah.
They can't even get a warning about curves ahead.
That's Washington.
Well, yeah.
Now we're through the agenda.
Anybody have any future agenda items they'd like to add? Okay, any other comments from anybody for any reason whatsoever? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.